Small town, only 100,000 people. Those 100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together: the Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Freezer Podcast. We are back. This is Freezer Podcast, where we bring you a local field Packer fandom to a worldwide audience. I'm Sanjay, and alongside me, like always, is Fred and Matt. And we are live here in our home studios, brought to you by Game On Wisconsin and brought to you by the Sweep Studios. And, well, we did it. We lost 4 in a row. And I want to just preface this real quick before we get on. I know there's a lot of you who are coming into this chat. Obviously, you have a lot of things to say in the chat. We will try to get to everybody as much as possible. I will also say this too. Whatever is said on this podcast, there is nothing but love between the three of us. And whatever we say to each other is exactly why we do this podcast, is because we know that we can each all handle it and take whatever shit that comes at us, including the bad stuff and the good stuff. So don't think that we're hating on each other, that we, have some animosity, whatever. We just do this because we love each other. This is what we need to do to vent. And there's be a lot of venting today. Okay. There's going to be a lot of venting today. And we're going to start with myself, because I'm only going to say a few words today, and then I'm just going to give the floor, because I've had enough. I really have. And I'm not going to put up with, I'll let Matt take this group of people. I'll let him discuss this group of people when he gets his chance. So I'm going to leave that to the side. But I've gone probably now, I'm going to say 10 years of this trade deadline business. And a lot of times I say, there's a little glimmer of hope, right? There's this one guy that could make the difference. There's this other guy that really wants to be even in this city. There's this other guy that really makes sense. And then, laugh it all off, sit there and scour the internet for a good 8 hours of my life, and nothing happens. 5 years later comes around, we get a new GM. The other one passes away, rest in peace. A new GM comes in, flashy, got his new little comb over. Been there for a long time. Really paid his dues in the organization, and he says, "You know what, Packer fans? You know what, Packer Nation? I'm gonna be in on every fucking conversation, every single one. You know what? I know you guys have been always clamoring for us to be, making this trade or doing that. So I'm gonna be really in every conversation possible." Okay, cool. Got a lot of hope. Maybe this is the guy that needs to be at the helm. All right, he is in the throne of the Packers. He's going to do us right. Hits it out of the park. Gets us 4 huge free agents. I'm like, okay, great. Maybe this is a good sign to come of things, the things that we haven't seen in years. Free agency action, and then possibly trades. Well, guess what? Trades didn't happen because we got back to the trade deadline. Nothing happened. Next year, still a really great roster. A lot of good things. Won an MVP. Got our quarterback back on track. Oh, yeah, well, still don't want to make any trades. Well, I'm going to fast forward to this year. Now we lost our awesome receiver. We let him go. He wanted to leave. He wanted to go back home. Fine, that's great. But then I played it Fred's way. I said, okay, I'll wait. I'll give you, it takes time, and we're going to let it, we'll let this team figure it out. They're going to figure out whatever they need to with these receivers. Sure. So we wait 6 weeks. We wait 7 weeks. And what is our record before last night? 3-4, right? 3-4. So I said to myself, well, if this isn't the time to make a trade, then I don't know what is. And I'll let Matt talk about this thing as well later on. So then we sit here today on an 8-hour day. I didn't really have a busy day at work. I had a moderately busy, but not busy, where I could check my phone here and there. And I'm just like, you know what? I'll give the first 4 hours a little bit of a break. The next 4 hours, it was a lot of chatter between the three of us. And I'm just starting to give up because now I'm hearing about all these other trades that were happening. And what do you know? The one thing that I hate to see the most, well, the Packers were in around 8 a.m. 8 a.m.? The trade deadline's at 3 p.m. And you're telling me at 8 a.m. they were like, oh, we're really interested. But then nothing happened at all. Nothing. Even though you've seen this team actively look like absolute dog shit in the passing game for the last 7 weeks. And granted, a lot has to do with Aaron Rodgers. I will admit that. And then we have this new rookie that can't stay on the field, which you gave 2 second-round picks to trade up for, mind you. And apparently, and then the caveat to all this is later on after the deadline, because this is always what happens. That's actually the funny part, is after the deadline when you get all the tweets afterwards. And apparently we were going to offer the same thing, but shocker, they wanted to take the team that they knew that would probably have the higher pick. So, again, a second-round pick for Chase Claypool. Not saying that he would have been the answer. Not saying that he was the guy that I was, hammering down for. But it would have been just something shocking to me because I've never seen us make a trade. I feel like that we need to make a trade. I don't know. But it would have just been something interesting. So now I'm at this point where I think Brian Gutekunst, I'm over it. I really am. I'm over the fact of you being in every single goddamn conversation in the world. I can be in conversation too. I'm having a conversation with 2 of my greatest friends here. They're having a conversation about guys. Shit, that doesn't mean anything. So I'm over it. I am going to sit back here. I have given my 2 cents. And I honestly feel like the Green Bay Packers, and this has been going on since Brett Favre, whatever we feel like this roster is, we've always just been like, oh yeah, we trust it. And I think maybe that's an arrogance thing. Maybe that's why would I go for a trade? Why are they available? Why should I give up all this draft capital for this one player? Well, you know what? We'll see what happens the rest of the next 10 years. Let's just find out. But anyway, that's all I got to say today. And you know what? Maybe I'll talk again. We'll see. I do have one thing to say against Matt, but that will come back later too. So Matt, why don't you take it away? I'm done.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You have something to say against me? We have nothing against each other. We'll get to the Bills game. I'm sure at some point. Maybe we don't.
Maybe we won't. I don't know.
I don't know.
There's enough out here that we can.
And Fred, feel free to just chime in whenever you need to here. But I'm a very frustrated Packer fan, and let me preface. It's kind of Sanjay said before. Like, I'm in a long-term relationship with the Packers. I'm born and raised here. I live just mere miles from Lambeau Field. This shit's in my blood. I'm gonna be around the next 80 years, hopefully, rooting for the Packers and see different generations come through here. So when I talk about this team, it's from a place of commitment and long-term love for them. But I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed that we're once again not doing anything. And I posted on Twitter today. I said, when is the right time for the Packers to make a move? Because it's not when they're Super Bowl contenders. It's not when they're conference contenders. It's not when they're in the hunt. It's not when they're needing a spark. It's not when they stink. It's not when they're good. It's never. There's just constant excuses why, from all the talking heads that cover the Packers, whether it's professionally or it's for a hobby like we do, it's just this constant, well, they don't need that guy. They don't need this guy. We need that draft pick. We can't afford him. He's not that good. Why would you want that guy? We have the guys in house. And then when they stink and they clearly need to add talent, it's, well, we don't need to trade for anybody because we need the draft picks. They're not going anywhere anyways. It's like, well, when is the right time to do it? Because frankly, the team committed to Aaron Rodgers. Everyone's asking like, what's the plan here? What's the plan? I thought the plan was to have Aaron Rodgers come back and put the team around him and try to go for a Super Bowl. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist or somebody who's paid a lot of money to understand the receiving core coming into this year was subpar. So the fact that they're not performing well is of no shock to anybody, probably including the coaching staff. And I get it. It takes 2 to tango. You got to have a trade partner. But every single time they have a trade partner apparently in place, some other team comes up
and cuts him from underneath and grabs the guy. Whether you think Chase Claypool was the right ad or not is irrelevant, because everybody who's had an opinion on receivers lately has been wrong about it. So how do you know? The fact is, like, you got to go make something happen. Do you believe your team's a contender or not? And the fact that they didn't do anything again tells me one of two things. No, we don't think they're a contender, or two, arrogantly, they think they have all the guys they need in-house, which they, in fact, don't. They didn't last year. They didn't before that, or the year before that. They needed to add somebody, and they never did. And I'm going to never stop pissing and moaning about that 2-year time frame where they could have avoided some of this and done something. But, I just don't understand, again, the pacifism, the acceptance of Packer fans. This is just the way it has to be. We have to sit here and never do anything. Do you think the Vikings beat writers were in the preceding weeks trying to put down any notion of, we shouldn't trade for a receiver, we have all the guys beat? No, they're trying to go for it. So I would love to see the Packers have that killer mentality instead of always thinking that they have their own guys. And that's to a certain degree fine, because it's allowed them to get to where they're at. But come on, you gotta make a move. I don't know. I'm just a bit sick of it.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. That's not what I'm gonna say. I'm just kidding. That's not what I'm gonna say. Okay, so here.
Don't you be that person though, Fred.
No, I'm not gonna be that. I'm not gonna be that person. I'm not.
Because you highlighted Iowa Joe, but I'll say something to Iowa Joe too. But go ahead.
If you want to answer it, answer it, because I'm not going to answer this question. I want to talk about how I feel. So if you
all right, I'll be really quick. Iowa Joe, I get it. You're right. We can't, put a gun to another GM's head. We can't make them accept our trade. And then that's why in this certain situation, if you felt that the desperation was there, which apparently they didn't, and that's, again, what are we supposed to do? I get what you're saying. But if you really were serious about making offers, and if you were, then you just up the ante. I get it. Whatever you feel is the value of that player, that's what you're going to stick to your bones. I get it.
Do you think that there's like that Gutekunst is like considered around the league maybe as like an arrogant prick? Nobody really wants to work with him. And I only ask that because of this. Like, we always talk about being in the conversations, right? We hear that bull crap all the time with this. But why can we never pull the trigger?
He makes trades in the draft.
Right, but it's two things. Like, it's either A, people don't like working with him, which is a possible thing. I've heard GMs talk about other GMs many times that they don't like working with them. They don't, whatever. Or it's just a matter of, which I think is what you were getting at, and I think is a fair assumption, is they just don't offer enough. Like, we try to lowball the shit out of everybody.
I'll say one thing to you.
Like, that's like, oh, that's it. Like, oh, we try to offer a second instead of being like, okay, like, why not a second and a sixth or a second and a fifth? It's just like, nope, it's a second. If that's not it, tough. We're not going to deal with it.
I'll say one thing, Matt, and I'll let you get in here. There's two ways of how I see it. When I'm not saying that the NFL is like Madden, but in my opinion, I would be making whatever offers I needed to when I'm trying to make a trade. And then if that doesn't work, you went from 8 a.m. to whatever p.m. And again, they probably are on the phones all day. I hope they were for the sake of this. I really do. But at the same time, too, and now I may have just forgotten what I wanted to say because that really, I was just like, wait, I think I know what go ahead, Matt. I'll come back to it.
Well, my anger about this is part of it's today they didn't do anything, but a large part of it is just their inaction the last 3 years period. And this is just the period at the end of the sentence. This is the end of the rope where they finally just didn't do shit for 3 years, and now you're staring 3 and 6 in the face potentially this coming week. That's my problem. I get it. At this point, their options were limited, but that's my beef. It's like, you let it get this far. You had 1 foot in on Aaron Rodgers. You have another foot in on trying to rebuild. You can't have both. It's one or the other. What is the plan, and what are you doing to execute on it? You can't sit here and pay Aaron Rodgers 25% of the cap and then surround him with guys that would be practice squad guys or fourth stringers in other teams. It's like you have, and I've been saying it the whole time this year, you're in a window now. You have to make moves like you're in a window now. But it's just always this next year, the year after that, 5 years from now. It's all it ever is of the Packers. They'll never actually really go for it. And going for it for them is re-signing their own dudes and signing a couple of guys 3 years ago. It's like, Rasul Douglas. I saw someone with a comment there. Yeah, everyone pissed and won about Stephon Gilmore last year. But Rasul Douglas, Nobody predicted that coming up. I mean, yeah, it worked
But
out.
that
I'm
was
glad
never
it
the
did.
problem, though,
and
right?
Credit to him. That wasn't
That
the problem.
was just
The problem was the playmakers.
that was like a gift that was given to us in the sense of that he made it. It worked in the system. The receiver has been a problem for a long time. You've tried the draft. You drafted 3 guys in 1 year, and none of them really panned out. I mean, did MVS really pan out? I don't know. I don't think he did in the standards that what we want as Packer fans. But to answer your question real quick, Fred, there's always that guy in fantasy, right? That just covets all of his players or picks or whatever. That's how I want to answer your question, because you said, is he arrogant or is he just that hard to trade with? Is he that guy in fantasy where like he puts his picks in
He's
this
like,
golden
it's like a
bowl?
parent who thinks their kid is the best at sports,
Yes,
the best
right.
looking,
Where
like,
he's
he
like,
refuses. Yeah.
oh, you want to give me, blah, blah, blah for a second rounder? Well, I think I should be getting Deontay Johnson instead. But like, already guy, like already have, that's what I'm thinking. That's my answer to your question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I get that. And it's there's definitely an aspect of it, because I feel like even when I try to, and this is a joke in a sense, but when I try to make like a trade with somebody in fantasy, right? Like, you always feel like you're getting the short end. You never feel like it's a fair trade. I mean, now imagine doing that with multi-million-dollar players in a billion-dollar organization.
Right.
I get it. So I'm going to take a different approach to it, but let me preface this approach with saying that I am absolutely 100% annoyed, frustrated, but in the same breath, I'm used to it, right? Like, this has never been different. Like, we've never been this way. And I will 100% back up what you say, Matt, in the sense of, it's not about today. It's about the last 20 years. It's ever since I've truly watched the game of football, outside of like, I would say the Reggie White thing, that's a free agent, but I wasn't old enough to comprehend that. Charles Woodson was the biggest thing I can think of in my brain. That was an absolute power move. But again, I don't think that was a trade. I believe that was a free agent move as well.
He only signed because we offer the most money.
So we get a lot of that, right? We do a lot of that situation. But like, when it comes to trade, and I know trades are difficult in the NFL, it just kind of is a little bit weirder. It's not as much as it is now as it was 10, 15 years ago. But that being said, it's like, when has it ever happened, and why do we get so worked up and upset that it doesn't happen? That's where I kind of come in, and I get it, right? I totally get it. It's just, should we be shocked? Should we be upset?
No.
Like, did we actually think today was going to be any different? Did you think that Goot was going to go out and like make a huge splash and offer a second and a third, or a second and a? No, of course not. He's never done that. Teddy Thompson never did that. Ron Wolf barely did that. And everyone wants to act like that he was some big, prodigy with that situation. No, he wasn't. I mean, yeah, he had a couple moves, but again, mostly free agent. Like, yeah, he brought over a crazy Mississippi guy on a wild deal that nobody, you could have Rasul Douglas, that type of deal. Nobody knew that shit was going to turn out the way that it did. So it is what it is. But I just want to say this. So from a backwards perspective on it, because I'm looking at it as a whole and a team thing here, I don't believe in my heart of hearts that bringing in a receiver was going to change anything and fix anything. And I know that's not what you guys are going to say. Is where we're coming from here. But it's not that. I think there is a much larger issue, and I've touched on it the last week or two, about this locker room, the players that are in it, the leadership, and the coordinators. I'm a big, big proponent right now on who is running our defense and who is running our offense, and why the hell they're doing it in a certain way that they are, because I'm big time concerned with this defense. All right. This defense, I thought, did really well against Buffalo. I know, Sanjay, we talked about it a little bit, but to get 2 picks, hold them to 27, when, let's be honest, we all thought they were going to put up 40, 50 after about 5 minutes. I thought was impressive. This defense, for what they did and what they've even done this year, considering they've been on the field for 80% of the game, is kind of remarkable, right? It's kind of impressive when you really look at it through that vacuum. That being said, I think there's a huge disconnect that was highlighted a little bit today, I believe, with the scheme and the defensive players within that scheme. And I just think that if there's going to be this change, right, this miraculous change in this team, this where we can go and say, hey, we're gonna go now, we're gonna go on a run, we're gonna hype these guys up. It's not gonna happen by just showing up tomorrow to go to work. Nothing's going to change. And maybe that was the one way that if you brought a new guy in, there'd be a little bit of hype. But I think there has to be a change with the D coordinator or the offensive coordinator. Give these guys a little bit more hype, especially on that defense. You have a guy running a scheme that does not fit the players when you have incredibly good players. We talked about this morning. And offensively, there is a wild this and that, and it's not gelling in any way, shape, or form. And I think there has to be something internally that changes that's going to get this team to kind of start figuring it out and playing for each other. Because right now they're not playing for each other. They're not playing for anything. They're not playing for this organization. They're not playing for their coordinators. It's like it's a joke. It looks like a young team in the middle of a JV football year, and they're just kind of crazy. I don't know. I think there's some issues that are way more than adding a receiver or adding an edge that would have changed this.
Well, I agree. This team isn't just one receiver away. They were one receiver away last year. They were one receiver away the year before that, but they're not this year. This is a multifaceted issue that they face, and it's on both sides of the ball. I tend to agree the defense of the two units, or I guess three if you consider special teams, I'm not as pissed at them because I feel like a lot of it is the offense has done them dirty the entire year. They've had to play really long stretches of time. The offense hasn't had any point support. They're not, the defense is having to go out and defend a 14-10 lead or something like that, like in the games that even had leads in, and then the other games, the Packers aren't scoring early and the other team is, and it's tough to go out and get the game flipped around. So I think that there's way more issues than just the receiver. I think for me, the receiver would have been a step in the right direction to try to wake the team up, because I think ultimately, yes, it is going to have to come from internal guys putting pressure on each other, pumping each other up. But sometimes just adding someone in from the outside that does something a little bit different can provide that spark to you. I mean, I just look, I watched the 49ers this last week, and they look like a completely different team against the Rams. I mean, they blew the doors off them, and their whole offensive game changed. They looked dangerous, and they were without Deebo Samuel that game. So it's like, that the power of one guy can be great. Now you got to add a guy like Christian McCaffrey, but who knows? Maybe had they got,
we already have that guy. That's the shitty part.
Yeah, right. We do. Number 33.
Yeah,
but you're right. But here's the thing. Like, I agree with what Matt's saying, because in the end, okay, let's put aside Brandon Cooks. Let's put aside Chase Claypool. Let's put aside, DJ Moore, whoever else. I mean, did it cross your mind at all even to even get some of the, bottom of the barrel guys either? Like, I'm wondering too, like, if there was anything that was available that, I mean, I guess there is still OBJ, which, I don't really know at this point. He comes back in end of November, whatever it is. Is this team already out of the playoff
contention?
Right. So like, it's more of this, is there a move out there that would have, at least given this offense a different look? Like you said, I mean, yes, McCaffrey is a completely different game-changing player, which, maybe that guy wasn't available in this trade deadline. But I'm not saying I'm mad at, we didn't get the receiver or we didn't get this X player. It's just more that I'm getting angry that we are still doing this same song and dance of being in these conversations. Either just say we're not in, he's never going to say that. Either just don't be in these conversations or just pull a trigger. I don't need to keep hearing that, oh, we made this try on this guy and we were in this. Like, I'm done hearing that, because honestly, it doesn't really matter anymore. Because what do you do? You're just getting the hopes up of all these millions of fans, which again, they're not doing this because of the fans. They could care less.
No, they don't give a shit about us.
But at the same time too, it's like either
you're that kind of bullshit. But
I mean, if you're this delusional that you think that this team was good as is, now again, if you think that there was not a trade that could have made this team any better, I'm sorry. I saw a different team in that second half of the Bills game. I know you guys are not going to probably be on the same side, but I feel like this team was starting to figure out at least a little bit of something. And I don't know if Rodgers had this like aha moment, which I don't know why it takes him 8 weeks, but maybe there was this
crazy. I agree with that. I do agree. I think the second half was a lot different, and I think there was some sparks there. But like, here's my main question, right? And my my wife asked me this the other day, Sunday, when we were watching the game. She's like, why do we suck all of a sudden? And I'm like, right. And I'm like, that's probably the most profound thing you've ever asked me. I'm like, I don't know. And I feel like that was like the hardest thing. Like I obviously then went on to like, list a few things that probably went straight over her head, but like, answer me that question. Answer me that question alone. Why have we regressed so much in a single year when, again, we only lost Devontae Adams?
Goes
How
back
is
to
it
your
that
other
our
question
offensive
about the
line?
coordinators.
How's our offensive line not been able to block? How does Aaron Rodgers look completely off? How does our defense look completely lost at times? Like how? Like
No
is
juice.
it that crazy? Is it just the coordinators?
I think a lot of it is confidence. So they're not playing with confidence and swag and fast and looking like they are really into it. And if you believe the Rob Demoski report that just came out the other day, that players are growing internally very frustrated, at least with the defensive scheme. And I don't blame them. It's like you got guys playing, I don't want to say out of position, but they're not being used in spots where
I'm okay with that. I'm okay being angry about that. If it's scheme, fucking be pissed.
Well, yeah,
but if it's lack of effort or like that they don't have juice, I'm sorry. You're playing a game.
I don't think
all of us are working, 50-hour weeks and whatever it is. You're getting paid millions of dollars. I'm tired of hearing the juice thing.
Agree.
I'm tired of hearing this, that we didn't have enough, this or that to get us going on the, like, what is that?
I know.
That is the lamest excuse.
They verbatim said they didn't have juice in an NFC Championship game. So this team is not void on that happening to them. And it's a LaFleur trade of their teams. But that's the problem is their lack of energy and confidence stemming from the fact that the scheme isn't working for them? And I don't know if they're having conversations with Joe Barry, hey, you should do this or do that, and they're not doing it. But this is possibly the third straight defensive coordinator that the players had to go to be like, yo, dude, you should do this and not that. This is what we should be doing. I think that's a problem. And then offensively, I just think it's like the whole time they should have been doing what they did to the Bills. Run the ball, and you absolutely would have beat the Jets, the Giants, and the Commanders.
100%.
You just committed to Aaron Jones. And it's like, God damn it. We saw it against the number one rush defense in the league against the Bills, and they looked great doing it. I don't know how much of it was the Bills just going, hey, you can have some of it. But regardless, clearly that's the way they should have been going, and it's just so frustrating to see them figure that out in a loss. I don't know if the season's beyond saving. Like I tend to think it might be, but man, it's hard not to think.
Imagine having a superstar in the backfield and not using him. Imagine.
I don't think it's over yet. I think there's definitely opportunity yet to figure it out. I think that, like you said, I mean, there was obviously a formula offensively against one of the best defenses in the league, and we seem to do a good job, run the ball, which opened up a few things for like Bobby, Samari, Romeo had an incredible play. And I think if we can get teams to start playing the run honestly, that allows Aaron Rodgers obviously to do what he does. But defensively, to go back to it, and we talked about this morning, I watch this defense and I see ridiculous, almost generational type talent, if you will. Maybe not generational because it seems pretty par for course nowadays, but Jair just being like, oh no, just go sit in a zone spot over here, like figure that out. Like when he's clearly a talent at man, he's going against, he's lining up over the third receiver instead of going after the number one. Like, why is he not at Diggs? Or over Diggs the entire time? Didn't we have the same problem against Jefferson, and we're still not learning that yet? We're 7 weeks in. That's a huge issue. You have them sitting in zones. Teams are ripping apart our zones. You have a guy like Rashawn Gary, who I think is an absolute beast. And I know Sanjay is going to say he hasn't been around for 2 weeks, but I don't think they're doing anything to help that. Why are we not running more stunts? Why are we not running more situations where Gary can thrive in it? Watch the Dallas Cowboys defensive line for one game. Watch their next game and just focus on their defensive line. Now, granted, they have Micah Parsons, they have Trayvon. They have a lot.
We do too, man. We
Absolutely,
have the same
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to preface it for any people that are going to go, oh well, they have Micah Parsons. You know what I mean? Watch their defensive line. It is almost sexual what they do. It is unbelievable what they do. They stunt, they spin, they flip. It's incredible. And why we're not doing that with our defensive line when we have a guy like Gary who could you imagine a stunt where Clark comes down. Gary wraps around with his speed. I mean, but here we are. This is what we run every time. We run a 1970s base defense, and we're like, Gary, you just got to go on the outside. You don't do anything else. Don't try to go on the inside shoulder. Make sure you go to the outside of him. And Jair, you're really good. But I just want you to just in this zone over here.
Can it even change right now? Are we too stuck in our ways?
You're clearly not somebody that should be coming down and trying to make a tackle. But you should come down and make a tackle. Amos, like, what are we doing? Like, why are we not scheming our defense to the personnel? And why instead we're like, nope, this is a scheme. We're gonna just keep. Yes, it could get Barry's dumbass out of there. The guy that brought over that didn't make any sense. Well, even if we do, let's just play the fact that, like, let's say they fire Barry, right? And I'll be rejoicing. The problem is they're gonna go, well, we're just gonna bring someone in from the inside. We're gonna just promote because that's the Packer way. We're not gonna bring in somebody who's innovative and unique and run some exotic packages. No, we're gonna bring in another turd burglar. And we're gonna be like, oh, this will fix it out. Like, that's my problem. Like, it's this like weird cultish fascination within the organization where it's like we can only promote the guys that are within.
Doing.
We don't want to do this. We're draft and develop. We're gonna like cool. We're 2022 right now. Like, you see teams around the league throwing draft picks, throwing like people all over the place, and they're being successful with it. Why do we always have to be the old grandpa in the room? Why can't we go and be
because we're the Green Bay
a young, exciting team? And then, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, a player would actually want to come here. And because what player is going to come here and be like, oh, I can't wait to play for this team. They never bring anyone over in trade deadline. They don't bring free agents. We're going to be the same crap team, and we're going to have some old ass grandpa D coordinator. Like,
it's like you can. I'm all about draft and develop, but you have to also be able to strategically add guys during the season, and not just free agency or the draft, but you got to be able to go mid-season, go, yo, we need this dude, we need some kind of upgrade at this position. Let's go make it happen because we think that's going to push us over. I will say this, as much as it is scheme, and I think a lot of it is what they're trying to do, I also think a lot of this is on the players. And you can bring anybody in from throughout NFL history to coach our defense, but if you have Darnell Savage, who can't tackle anybody in the open field. I have never seen someone come downhill so fast and just
he's living the Ha-Ha route. He had that awesome year under Pettin, and we have never seen him again.
Okay, so let me ask you something, and I'm just going to be total devil's advocate on it because that's just how I want to play. Because I do I really wanted so much more.
Let go.
It sucks.
Let go.
No, I do. But let me just ask you though: is there any coincidence between the fact that like Ha-Ha and Savage failed? Did they fail because of the fact that our defensive coordinators were turds, as opposed to like maybe like if they just both were not as good as we thought they were? I can live with that. But like, I can't imagine that they both just were that terrible.
Well, maybe they thrived in the opposite schemes. Because like, what if Savage was great in a Pettin scheme and maybe Ha-Ha was still good in a Caper scheme? I don't know. I don't know what that is. I will never know that answer because I just feel like
when I watched Savage play in college and I think even his first
he was everywhere.
He was an absolute left field ball hawk type guy. He was not a guy that was going to go up and make the tackle. That's an Amos, right? That's Amos's job. Oh. Amos is kind of guy who can come down in the box and make that play. So I'm not going to rule out yet with Savage, but I think like that's put him in a position where he can do that though. Like, let's not put him in a position where he's got to make now, if you put him in a position to thrive and okay, as I'm saying this, I'm also thinking to myself, you've literally dove into a sideline and missed a tackle. Like, I don't know how you fix that. That's an unfixable error.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of problems. So like he had to live that. He had to probably look at the film and they probably roasted the shit out of him. I hope they did. So that's a big problem. I get that. But like, is there an opportunity to find a different situation? Like, does he let him come down and cover the slot, the nickel, keep him just in like a roaming, like free safety mode? Like, is that an option? Like, I saw
someone suggest putting Rasul Douglas back there at free safety, and I don't
Send
know,
it.
just try something.
Yeah, I
mean,
so
at this
I
point-
have a
at
question.
This point, this is when they should start doing that stuff, right?
Right.
Like, let's start being a little like enough
Rudy
with
Ford, get him in there.
enough with the white New Balances and the freaking dad jeans. Rip them off. Let's do some crazy shit. Because right now, back's against the wall. Like, if you don't come out against Detroit and
It's
absolutely like do something spectacular, you're gonna lose a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
And I know they don't care necessarily, but like you should care. And you're spitting on the franchise, you're spitting on the history when you just continue to come out week after week, year after year, and just don't do anything. And to go back to the beginning really quick, sorry. The whole trade deadline thing, like the last 3 years. Nothing. You see
Not
team
a thing.
Minnesota. Minnesota looks great right now. What do? They go, hey, we're gonna go bring in another weapon that's gonna absolutely just jolt us through it. San Francisco, a little bit rougher, but they go and bring in CMC, and it's a game changer.
They were
Like,
just in the
teams
NFC
that are-
Championship game.
Miami,
Tony.
Miami's doing really good, and they're like, well, they're doing good, and they're like, nah, we're gonna go out and we're gonna
It helps
literally
to have
become
QB
a
on
Super
rookie
Bowl
contract.
favorite.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you gotta you see things like that, and you're like, so 2 years ago, there wasn't a single guy that we could have thought, hey, we could bring in, and it just might give us a boost, even though
Will
we were
Fuller.
already
Exactly.
6-1.
We sat all last season and said
Hey,
they're going to get to the playoff.
They saved those draft picks to get like Jay Sternberger.
Yeah, how are they doing? How's Quay Walker doing? Inconsistent. How's Devontae Wyatt doing? Can't even get in the field. He's 24. But last year we sat the whole time and said, well, yeah, that's fine. You can kick the shit out of everybody during the regular season. You can throw to Devontae Adams 35 times in a game and win a game. That's fine. You can do it. But when you get to the playoffs, you're going to need dudes, plural, to get the job done. And lo and behold, the Niners double Devontae the entire game. Nobody else can get open. And if so fact, they lose the game and we're at home again.
And that's the arrogance right there.
Super Bowl. That's the arrogance. It's that
that
we
is the
never need
arrogance that
anybody
we've
else.
never felt that.
We have the guys. It's never like, well, fine. We'll try to bring somebody in and we'll just have a gratuitous amount of talent there. Be that team for once and do it. I want to do one more thing here on the trade. What the hell are the Lions doing? Why are you trading TJ Hawkinson to another team inside your division? This is why you're the Lions. This is why you've sucked my entire life. This is why you will continue to suck. And this is why nobody gives a shit about your team, because you will enrich another team inside of your own division. What are you doing?
Well, how does that benefit them?
I don't know. I would have taken
he's
around.
I mean,
unless he slept with Dan Campbell's like wife,
right,
or something. I don't know
like,
what he could have done.
Outside of like, I'm guessing like Mark.
They have money. Who are they?
Like,
where's their money tied up?
He's one of the best young tight ends in the game, right?
And he blocks.
They blocks. They don't have their money wrapped up in anybody. Why would you not retain some? Probably, arguably, I would consider off the top of my head their best player, who's super young still. Like, you trade him, which is in the beginning, that's stupid enough right there. Classic Detroit. But then you trade him to like Minnesota, like you said. Like, are you an idiot? Like, what are you doing?
One little caveat to that: you have a 65%. I'm gonna be real here. You have a 65% chance, depending on what happens in Baltimore, to potentially land Lamar Jackson. And what does he love to do? Throw to tight ends, and you just got rid of one. Not saying that you are banking on Lamar Jackson coming here. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm just trying to say,
you should be banking.
Even if
you
you
banking
go
on
draft
the
a rookie
quarterback, that you're going to draft.
The tight end's the man's best friend or rookie's best friend, right? Because it's short passes, it's easier, quicker routes. That's you, and that guy. And again, a tight end that blocks like he does.
There's got to be something else that happened, because it just doesn't make
he either has dirty pictures of the entire front of office or something.
It's something weird.
I don't know what it is, but
that just
or the
doesn't
office
make any
is
sense.
Absolutely stupid. And this is just Detroit. This is what we expect from Detroit. I mean, I don't know.
Losers.
Let's move on real quick.
We're on our way, though.
Excuse me. So let's just real quick, 5-10 minutes here. We'll wrap this Bills game up. Yes, arguably the greatest catch of probably not the season, because that's still that other one from The other
Yeah, for the
rookie,
Packers
actually.
season.
Isn't that kind of crazy that George Pickens has one and now Romeo Dobbs has like probably one of the best catches in the year?
I'll tell you who it wasn't. It wasn't Christian Watson's drop. I'll tell you that.
Oh, God.
Did
Still
you know
first
that?
play,
Okay,
first
let me
play.
just touch on something really quick.
Yeah.
So when he caught the ball, right, and he got hit and he went down,
Who are you talking about?
Watson.
Oh, Watson. Okay. Yep.
So I got to say this because it's driving me crazy. I had tweeted and I said he ain't it, right? I just don't think he's been hurt almost every game. He doesn't see the field enough. We don't use him in the right way. Drop the ball. And I got absolutely castrated on Twitter for saying that because they thought I was some insensitive jerk because I said that. And I thought that was ridiculous. And it just goes to show once again that Twitter is the absolute worst. And if you're not on Twitter, don't get on Twitter.
Yeah,
It's
you'll go down a long
shithole.
list. I mean,
That was my
Matt
that was
gets
my
sucked in
Twitter
sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, people don't know how to separate the player and like. Obviously, we don't want anybody injured. Like Fred is.
No, and that's the thing. That it was never about the injury. It was
Fred has a
about
child that plays football. You think he cares about people's like?
It was
you
just
know,
about like, and I've said this since week one. Go back and watch all the other videos. Like I've said, I just don't think he's that good. I don't think he's.
But
he's
this
not
guy
being
did
on, he's
draft
not on the
him in our
field. It's
auction
not. It's not
dynasty
okay.
league.
Huh?
Didn't you draft him?
No, I didn't draft him.
Who got him? Who took Christian Watson in our league?
Probably Jensen.
No,
No,
he
no, it wasn't
specifically
me.
did not. Oh, was it me?
Yeah, it was probably you Yeah,
Some
of
buried
course.
on your depth bench somewhere.
No, and it wasn't about that. It was about the fact that like he's not on the field, right? You can't produce if you're not on the field.
Right.
And I firmly believe that whether it's Christian Watson
Some
or my
guys
kid.
just don't have the body for the NFL. I mean,
Right.
we've
Well,
seen
and
it.
it just
for
doesn't-
years.
But like, I mean, I just got totally
ahead, Matt.
castrated for it, and I thought that was
If
so
you
stupid.
could go back, would you swap Watson for Pickens?
Stop. Why do you do this? You find a
Oh,
way
Would you
to
do it? Would you do it?
weasel your way with
Okay,
this
all right.
shit. Obviously, we take Pickens, but he's
Okay.
not even playing. Is that guy hurt? He's not playing.
Yeah, I mean,
George
honestly,
Pickens
like
had it. I don't know.
Pickens had like that one catch, and he hasn't really.
He hasn't done shit.
He's just kind of crazy. That's the only problem. That's the only problem.
Right.
with him.
Okay. Obviously, in
go ahead,
hindsight,
go
we
ahead,
would
go
take. And the fact that you gave up 2 second-round picks for this guy
Yeah.
is looking like you almost
Here's-
drafted him in the first round.
Why
Here's
don't
the
they just
thing.
shut him down for the year and kid hit the weight room, add 15 pounds of muscle. We'll see you in August. Like, why
Well,
don't
and
just do
That's
that?
Yeah,
the
I mean-
problem, though. But then we didn't make a trade at the trade deadline. So
The thing that I don't think that you did bring it up tonight, Matt, but that I think is nobody talks about is Devontae Wyatt.
Nothing. We had another
Like,
first
how
round
does
pick.
that?
Nobody
why are we
talks
not
about it.
talking about that?
He does nothing.
the amount of passes that
Nothing.
this guy gets every week by like the Twitter world is obnoxious because
We got that Devontae Adams pick
And I think
did
that
shit with it.
And I think that Quay Walker, I do like Quay Walker.
I like
think
Quay.
he's got
I
a
like
lot
Quay.
of upside. I thought what he did against the Bills was crazy. I was watching it. My wife was like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, something had to have happened, right? Someone had to say something.
yeah.
I just found this unbelievable that this happened. It turned out that it doesn't look like anything happened. He just lost his cool. Rookie mistake. He will learn. He clearly was pretty upset about it and emotional. I think he's a good kid. I think he's going to be a good player for us. But the fact that Devontae Wyatt is just irrelevant, like, and then you have you moved up for the Christian Watson, but Romeo's better. Samari Toure looks better at this point. I mean, like,
and
what
by
are
the
we
way-
doing? but yet we won't give any of these picks away.
Exactly. And by the way,
we are.
this one
We are.
defense sucks. They're getting steamrolled, and he still can't get on the field. Hello, what a
Like,
waste!
isn't he
No,
supposed to just
literally-
be a big body dude? Like, throw him in there.
Yeah, and the worst, he's 24. Like, you needed him to step in day one, and I don't think maybe not start, but at least be in the rotation. He's barely in the rotation.
at 24, you should be
Well, he's
making the starting team if you're a first round
He's
draft
a
pick.
D tackle, right? Like, he plays D tackle.
How is he
like,
not even
not
in the
a-
rotation?
Not a super complicated position, right? You pretty much eat up blockers. You try to get in there. He comes from a Power 5 school in Georgia. He's 24 years old. What's your excuse? What is the excuse as to why he is not playing football for the Green Bay Packers? It doesn't make any sense. And frankly, again, you refuse to hand over picks to other teams, but yet you pretty much bury them when you draft people like Wyatt and Watson, and maybe they turn out, and I would love to eat crow on it, but at this point, it's like look at the statistics, right? Like, because I was like a year or two ago, people always were like, oh, well, Goot's not that good, or this person's not that good. Ted Thompson, I used to battle a lot for Ted Thompson. I love Ted Thompson. And, the hit percentage on GMs when they draft is very low, right? It's a super hard thing to draft good players. There's a lot that goes into it. So why wouldn't you be more willing, right? If you know those numbers, you know that you're only going to hit on, let's say 30, 40% of your draft picks, and that's on a good year. Why aren't you more willing to move those draft picks for players that have been proven in the NFL, that have actually played for 4 or 5 years, and you've seen, like, you're going to not give up a third, even though you've statistically drafted shit in the third for since you've been a GM, and you can even probably count some of that for Ted Thompson because you know that Gutekunst was making moves towards those latter years, but yet you're not going to give one of those thirds up for a player that's been proven. Like,
right.
Let's say just Brandon Cooks, right? I don't. It probably was going to cost more than that for Brandon Cooks, but you're not going to give up something like that.
No, that makes too much sense.
You're going to risk it and go after a Josiah, Jay Sternberger, and whatever. It just drives me crazy.
Well, the problem is and I don't want to keep. I mean, we can always do this in the off season, but
sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, we're already on it, so screw the Bills game. So Brian Gutekunst, to me, I mean, he's had John Runyon Jr., Elton Jenkins. Outside of, I mean, I know people are going to say A.J. Dillon, but I think the jury's still out on the guy. I mean, the guy has his glimpses of pretty awesome stuff, and the guy is big, and he does catch the ball actually surprisingly well for the most part. But outside your first round draft picks, what? AJ
Who are you
Dillon?
talking about? Sorry. Okay.
Outside the first round draft picks, which you're supposed to hit anyway, because they're like the creme de la creme of the crop. So Gary, I don't count him. Jair, don't count him because these guys were high picks. I mean, obviously the Jair one was a little bit more like, who's this guy? So maybe I'll give you Jair, but I'm not counting first round. I usually don't. But outside of that, you've probably had 2 guys that you've probably hit. Outside of that, I mean, it's been absolute dog shit. So you're right, Fred. Why not give that second up? Because you clearly were fine with giving up 2 seconds just to move up to get a receiver that can't even get on the field. So what's the difference in trying to just say, screw it. Maybe we'll just give up our second for a guy that can stay on the field for 16 games. Doesn't Brandon Cooks play every single game outside of 3 years ago when he was on New England? I'm sorry. I'll take that any day over what I have from Watson right now. I mean, I'm sorry. I get it. He can't stay healthy. I feel for the guy. He's a rookie and he has maybe he does have
potential. But they're all about stats.
I'm tired of potential.
And all that stuff. And they're always about numbers and like there's got to be someone there that's saying, hey, listen, you are 18% hit rate on your third round picks. You're at 27% hit rate on your second round picks. Look at those numbers and be like, wow, I clearly can't figure out third round. Let's shop that pick.
And don't give
you're telling me that in a $1 billion organization that you don't have some nerd or some guy sorry to be whatever, but some guy that's like,
we don't have
dude,
space.
That you can't do this or do that. Like, come on.
Talk to me about LA and talk to me about Dallas about having cap space or New Orleans.
LA was
having
good.
Cap
LA was
space.
trying to trade for Burns.
Those guys have always never had cap space and they've always made something work.
Way.
So don't tell me about, we have $7 million right now. I know we have $7 million. I get a freaking text from Ken Ingalls every single day. But then some way, shape, or form, these teams somehow figure it out. So don't tell me rentals work. You can rent a guy for the year and then you can dump him. The salary doesn't matter right now as long as you get underneath it by the offseason. Don't tell me that Brandon Cooks cannot be signed or traded for. Yeah, you might be over a little bit, but you can still run your season. As long as you get to March 19th or whatever damn day it is, that's when you have to get underneath it. So don't tell me that we don't have it. I'm tired of that. Now,
I don't think I don't think we want to throw rookies away. I think it's just
I don't think rookies.
That they need some bona fide talent now and not having to wait. Now they're going to have to wait because they're not going to obviously add anybody this year. So they're going to put it all on Watson, Toure, and Dobbs. I think Dobbs has a bright future. I like what
I
I've
think
seen from
Toure does
Toure.
too, honestly.
And frankly, Christian Watson, he hasn't been in the field enough. And when he was, all they did was give him end around. So I need to see him actually play wide receiver. The play got hurt on. He looked fast as shit, but then he gets hit and he's out of the game.
But the problem
maybe
is
a couple
like,
weeks now.
what team did you think you had today? You gave Rodgers $50 million thinking that you were in a Super Bowl win now mode, right? Is that what we did? Isn't that what we did? So you tell me, what kind of philosophy are we trying to go? Are we trying to win the Super Bowl, or are we just still trying to draft and develop? I get it.
I think we're stuck. They wanted to. I believe they wanted to. I believe they wanted to.
Yeah,
I believe they wanted to move on from Rodgers.
Right? Yeah, but you still paid him $50 million.
The problem is they didn't. They re-signed him. They didn't. They re-signed him, and then they're trying now. They don't know how to commit to the team. Do we just? It's like they don't know what to do. They did. They had a plan. They had a plan. It's gone. And now they don't have a plan.
They did. They knew what they wanted to do when they paid him $50 million. Yes, the plan may have gotten screwed up, but then you committed to him. You could have just.
How could they not though?
What?
How could they not though? Like, okay, so
right, but don't tell me that they're stuck. You're not stuck making a $50 million decision. That's not being stuck.
I'm saying now they're stuck. They're stuck. They're stuck between.
Yeah, but you chose.
Listen, I don't feel bad for the Packers. Like you said, they chose to be here. They chose not to do anything about wide receiver. They chose to re-sign them and not make the hard decision to possibly move on. They're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So what I'm saying they're stuck between wanting to do one thing and doing another thing, and now they don't know what to do.
The decision, the hardest decision in the world would have been either saying, no, Rodgers, we'll let you walk, or we'll trade you.
They didn't want Favre 2.0, but it's like that took balls to do. That's why Ted Thompson is going in the Ring of Honor. It took balls to do it.
Right.
The thing is that Rodgers put us in a situation, and I think he basically demanded this money, right? He kind of in a roundabout way expected this money. Now you live with it. You want that money, then you live with it. And we can always go back to, and I used to hate when people used to do this, but it's true. I mean, you look back at those years with Tom Brady when he took pay cuts, and I know it's different, blah, blah, blah. But he still was like, Rodgers came out this year and basically was like, okay, I need to be paid the most. I want all this money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, then lay in the bed you made, bud. Like, you wanted all that money. Like, you can only put it so many places. Like, this is where you're at. And if he would have just been like, you know what, let's do 35 over the next couple years, like blah, blah, blah. Like, that opens a door for so many.
He had the audacity to say that
but like the fact that you don't get Brandon Cooks now, Mr. Rodgers, is because you chose $50 million over the 35. So live with it. Like, sorry. Like, and even beyond that part of it, the team is still really good. I think there's still a lot of talent there. And that's why I keep coming back to, there's an issue with the coordinators.
That's why we're all mad, is because this team shouldn't be this shitty. They have way too many good players.
We were in good.
Too many good players
2 years ago.
3 and 5. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
And don't anybody out there accept it. Don't accept it. It's crap.
No, you're right. All right. Well, we have that really dumb team that we talked about a few minutes ago up next, the Lonely Lions. Is this a home game or is this on the road?
It's on the road.
It's on the road. So it's in Detroit.
Well, at least we don't have to cover TJ Hawkinson. I mean, for real.
Yeah. I mean, if Quay Walker's there, I would have had no problem, but as long as he doesn't get ejected.
I shouldn't be worried about this game, but I
at this point we are, right? Because we have no idea. We have no idea. I didn't think we were gonna lose to Taylor Heineke or Danny Dimes or whoever else that was, Zach Wilson, but here we are. Detroit Lions. I don't know what this team is, honestly, because they came out with a bang in the first 2 weeks or whatever, and putting up these crazy points with Jared Goff, and now they've been absolutely dog poo. And it's really showing. But this is that one moment where Dan Campbell is going to be like, let's absolutely slit their kneecaps. this team is absolutely on full tilt. This is like piranhas like smelling blood or sharks smelling blood, whatever it is. This is what they're doing. And if the Packers don't somehow say, look, we're going to smash you in the mouth immediately, in that first. I would say even receive immediately and go get a touchdown kind of thing. But I don't know what's your guys' take on this Lions game before we do our picks.
I would say this. I think that it's it's two things, right? It's either they lose and the season is absolutely gone. It is completely gone. There's no coming back from that loss. It would be an absolute travesty, whatever. If they win, good. If they win big, it's a step in the right direction, but we're always going to say, but it was the Lions. So it's really going to have to be like, this is an opportunity. You have a really good, though. They have a really good opportunity right now to come off of a not so bad loss against arguably one of the best teams in the NFL and say, hey, we could have been way worse with the Bills. We could have went down 40, 50 points, which I think we all thought was going to happen. Like I said, after 3-4 minutes of that game, it looked rough. And I think they composed themselves. I think they got it together and they ended up being pretty close. Covered the spread, which was something we joked about that we didn't think they would do. But if you can go into the Lions, you can win a good game. You can get some rhythm going. You can throw a couple drives together. There's a very good opportunity. You can take that and you could launch pad off that right now. Easy said, easily done. Not so sure. You still have to follow that the next couple of weeks with a few really tough opponents, Dallas being one of them. But if there was ever a good opportunity to say, all right, you just went through 4 hellish games. Now's the time to kind of regroup and get your shit right. Go kick some ass against the Lions and then go. It's now. I don't know if it happens, but it better happen because otherwise we're going to be in a rough place.
Matt, go and give your prediction too at the same time.
Okay. First of all, the Lions, they play us tough every year. They're 1-6. They absolutely stink, but I have no reason to think that they're not. They smell blood in the water too. They know they can knock us out and end our season. Essentially, they're not going anywhere. We apparently aren't going. I think that they could end it all for us. I believe I saw a stat today that said the Lions defense ranks 31st pretty much across the board.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop short of saying they need to wipe the board with the Lions here because I don't think we're in a position to ask this team to blow anybody out, even if it's the crappy Lions. I just think they need to win the game, period. I don't care if it's 10-3, 3-0, 21-17, whatever. You just need to see a win on the board, and you need to stop the bleeding because coming up the week after, by the way, is Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys with the juggernaut coming to Lambeau Field, and they get a short week, and they got to play Derrick Henry and the Lions after that. So it's you just need to win this game, period. And frankly, even with all the Packers' problems and shit, they're still in a position to probably win this game. I know I barked at Sanjay off camera here before the show. There was some stuff to hang your head on about the Bills game. The way they played in the second half and they didn't get away from the run was very encouraging. And I think if they can take that mentality into the Lions game, they should be able to control the game, control the line of scrimmage, possess the ball more, and allow the defense like that to be on the field for 60% of the time. If you could just do that, I got to believe you're going to win the game. And I'll go and toss a score out there, 24-16. I think something like that. That's all I got.
Go ahead, Fred.
I already said my piece about it. I think that
what's your prediction?
You gotta win the game, right? 100%. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think we are again, maybe not again, but I definitely think we're superior to them, pretty much on all levels of the game. That being said, we haven't shown that throughout the season, right? Against some of these other opponents. But again, we should absolutely win this game. It's in a dome. Rodgers plays pretty well in domes. They just lost their arguably the best player. They're going to be in a weird mood. I say we win. I'm going to give us a little bit more. I'm going to say we're going to go 34-17. I think we're going to have an offensive game for the first time. Now, I don't think looking in the future against the Eagles and the Cowboys, I think we're going to get back to where we were. But I think for this game, we build off of what happened in Buffalo and we go ahead and win that game.
It's interesting because you said we lost 4 games and this is what gets us to, think, this is where we start to figure things out. I thought
Well,
that
just-
every single loss, I thought, okay, you just
I
lost to
agree.
a dog crap team. This
Same,
should be your
same.
wake up call, right? Like this is your smack in the
They're
face.
still
Like, hey,
asleep.
you're not here. This is not, a dream, but we're still sleepy. Like, I don't know. I mean, again, I know I said that the Bills game was a little bit more promising, and I don't know if that was a little bit in part where they maybe
It's the
were
Lions,
just kind of.
Sanjay. Be careful. It's the Lions.
I do have us losing this game. I cannot.
Oh my
I said I'm not picking us to win until we actually win. Where
I
have
can't
we
even
seen-
blame. I can't even blame Sanjay at this point.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
mean, you're
Because-
right. You're fine.
I can't even
I
blame
think
him.
Jamal
There,
Williams sees
you
this as a
happy?
revenge
You
game.
happy? You
Thank you.
manifested losing into our fucking life. You
Wow.
manifested losing into this life.
It's realistic. Jamal Williams he's got a revenge game. I think this is blood in the water where they just think let's just keep punching a guy that's already down kind of thing. They're not going to help us back up. So I have us losing this game 24-10. I don't know
your
where you
wife
guys
has
keep
joined
thinking that we're
Sanjay.
going to score 20 points because we haven't scored 20 points in a long time. I don't know where you guys keep
The
thinking we're going to
Thurston
score these
household's
points.
upside down right now.
Yeah, thank you. See, Amanda's with me. See, thank you. She would pick us to lose too, wouldn't you, Amanda? Just put the L. Fly the L.
Fly
Thank
the
you,
L.
everybody,
She's
so
not
much.
getting any of my Packers stuff.
Thank you so much for joining us again this evening. We really do appreciate it. I know it's not always fun to hear doom and gloom from the three of us, mainly, me. But sometimes
me too.
we
Hey,
have to-
lots of people tuned in. Lots of people in the chat, man. We love you
Thank
guys.
you,
This was
everybody.
great.
Yeah.
I said this before the show to these two guys, and I mean it even with all these people here. This is kind of our therapy. We need this.
It is.
We need this.
We do. And I hope you guys need us every week. So keep coming back. We will keep being here for you guys, regardless of what our schedule is like. At least two of us will be here. So with that being said, that's Fred. That's Matt.
Please.
Hopefully
go
we get a
Pack,
win
go.
this week, huh? Go.
Please.
Pack. Go.
Please.